I've been doing this kind of stuff for like 4 or 5 years and no one has ever asked me like how to do what I do, and that's fine because I think for one, no one really cares that much, and for two, there's probably like way better videos of like how to do things. But last year, whenever I made a video calling it a tutorial on how to make this monstrosity, this cunt, for one, no one really watched that much and I understand that, but for two, the way I handled the tutorial, it was not a very good tutorial, so I decided it would be a good idea to like show how you can do a tutorial, not how to do a tutorial, how you can make like a plush doll thing and really use it for anything, because if you're on Twitter, which hopefully you're not, I've been making these recently. This is Pyra from Xenoblade, this is Bayonetta from Bayonetta, and you can see there's a pattern. They have big heads, stubby legs, and stubby arms, and they have their own unique details. So you can take these patterns that I'll show today and really use them for anything. You can make Hitler, Femboy Hitler, Kazuma Kiryu, your algebra teacher, anything you want, and really it costs barely $10 to do so. Like, I actually went to the store the other day, not to buy materials, because I have all the materials that I need, and I added it all up and it really costs like barely $15. Like, you have felt, glue guns and glue, thread and needles, stuffing, and multicolored socks. It is cheap. It is cheap. And it's also easy, so join me, and I've been trying to do this intro for 30 minutes. The first thing you're going to want to do is set up a work area and put on summoning salt videos in the background, because this is going to take a couple hours. The actual first thing you're going to do is to take a sock of whatever skin color you need. I use these like leggings from Walmart. They are like 98 cents or something, and they have different skin colors. But the first thing I do normally is you take the toe end, like I would say a couple inches, and to snip it off, and then you stuff it. You stuff it a fair bit until you have a rounded shape. I don't exactly know how to make the perfect ball shape with the stuffing, but really you just shape it however you can. Most of the time I compare it to stuff I've made in the past, but in the end, once you have a ball, pretty much, that will be your head. Then you cut off the excess to where the stuffing is barely poking out, and then you do a thing called a running stitch. A running stitch is where you put the thread initially on the inside, and then you literally run it through at the very end of the sock, and then you pull it tight once you've made a lap around it, and it should stay closed, and that is your head. Good job. These are the only patterns that I ever use consistently throughout these human plushie projects of mine. You have a half oval looking thing for the body, some little stubs for the legs, and just a singular stub for both of the arms. You can trace it twice. I'm not really sure how to give these patterns out to people, because to me these patterns are like perfect for doing these types of plushies specifically. So I mean, I guess you can visually reference it and make your own. But the first thing I do after making the head is I do the body. So depending on what it is, you can use felt or sock, and then you trace the thing once or twice with either chalk in my case, or a pen or a pencil. Probably not a pencil. Well, then you cut it out, and then you put the ugly sides, the sides with chalk on them, like on the outside, and put them back to back against each other. Then you do a thing called a backstitch, which is, you should probably just look at the screen. You put in the needle and thread, move a little bit forward, then you take the needle and thread behind the initial stitch you just made, go backwards in it, pull it up, and then repeat and repeat and repeat. And I mean, like I just said, you should probably just look at the screen, But yeah, it's very simple. For the body, you are only going to stitch along the top and leave the bottom open so you can turn it inside out so you have a cleaner side, and then stuff it. Normally, you would want to use a color corresponding with the material you're using. I just used white so you can see what I'm doing. And also, I ran out of white thread and I had to just glue the other side. Don't do that because it will look ugly. But yeah, that's pretty much how you do the body. For the legs, it's pretty much the exact same song and dance as the body. You take the pattern of the legs and trace it twice or once, depending on whatever it is you're using. But for me, I did it twice, just like the body. Then you cut it out, and then you use the exact same stitching style for the legs, and also only do the leg part when you stitch it and leave the top portion open. Again, it's probably best to just watch the video and not hear me ramble on trying to explain how to do the back stitch poorly, but yeah, it's fairly simple. And then when you turn it inside out, I normally use just like a pen or pencil or something, probably not a pencil again, to jam open the legs fully so they're not stuck in the torso part, and then you stuff them. The next part is a little bit tricky only because for me it is a pain trying to get the two pieces to stay put without me like jamming my fingers somewhere. But next is attaching the legs and the torso. The reason the legs and body both had openings at the bottom they're bottoms I suppose, is so you could stick them inside of each other, and then, just like with the head, you take a needle, put it inside one of them, and then you do a running stitch, except this time you're gonna want to make sure that you actually have the needle going through both of the body parts. And then normally I lap around the body twice, and then I think it's safe to cut the thread. And yeah, that is pretty much the body finished. Next is the arms. Next are the arms, and like I've been saying for the past 5 or so minutes, these are just as simple as the legs and body. You trace the pattern, preferably twice, unless you're making a demon spawn from hell, and then you do a back stitch, in which case I did a bad job of recording me sewing it, and then you cut it out, turn it inside out, and stuff that bad boy. Why did I say that? And like I said, normally you're gonna do it twice because most people have 2 arms, but no. I might have been doing this for the past like 4 or 5 years, but I still cannot like optimally put arms and a head on like the body or things like without glue. That's why I use a glue gun sometimes, because I mean, it's simple and it works, and also I'm just not very good at attaching things together. But if you have details on the arms or they have sleeves, then it's not noticeable and you're fine. So here is your amputee finished.
The first guy to do it was a runner named Chris Knight.
Wow. The last things I do on these is normally the head and the facial features, and because there isn't going to be a lot of detail on this thing, I wanted to be funny and buy googly eyes to put on the face, because I think it's self-explanatory on how to do black eyes with glistening light. I do draw the mouths on them, even though they're mostly smiles, and I mean that is also self-explanatory, so I wanted to be funny as well. Yeah, like I said a minute ago, I glue on the arms and head, and that is essentially the end of the plushie process, is gluing everything together. Comparing this thing to my other plushies, the detail and quality is very different and saddening, but like I said earlier, use like the correct colors and do not use googly eyes, and draw the face properly, add details to whatever you're doing, and give him another arm. You'll do good on it, And one last thing I just wanted to add, I did not want to make hair for this thing, so of course I didn't, but most of the time I trace the size of the head on a piece of paper, and then I draw like what the hair would look like. So for example, Pyra, I would trace around the head, and then add the details on the piece of paper, and you know what to do from there. So what have we learned here today? Well, I think one thing is to never trust strangers on the internet. His head is coming off. So, like I said in the beginning, I really just wanted to show people, like, you are able to make neat things, and I don't know why I'm holding this, just because I have to glue the head back on. You can make good things, neat things, cool things even, for pretty dang cheap. Like I've shown before on my Twitter that I've made like Danganronpa things, Bayonetta, Xenoblade. I've even made a couple of anime related things like Fruits Basket, I believe the name is, or Bungo Stray Dogs. I don't have any pictures for that, I think I deleted them on accident, but my point still stands. You can really do anything with these types of patterns, and you can even just make your own. That was like that was one of the main things that I did for the Professor Layton video that I did last summer. You can, once you have the skills to make junk, preferably the name is, you can just do whatever, and like I said, you can do it for cheap, and yeah, that's the main takeaway from this video. I hope it was enjoyable. Hopefully this haunts your nightmares.